The sky was dark and heavy with smoke above the mining colony on planet Orbis 9. Machines moved like tired giants across the red dust. Miners with rough faces walked past broken walls and metal tents. No one smiled here. No one had time for kindness. Stood near his ship, an old freighter with scratches and burns from 100 space runs. His face was hard like stone. He wore a brown jacket and a metal belt full of tools. His eyes were sharp but tired. He had seen too much in too little time. He checked his messages on a dusty tablet. One message blinked in red, from a man named Draven. Draven was not a friend. He sold rare things, dangerous things. And now he had something. Nurik opened the message. It said, alien female and child. Widow class, high value, meet now, coordinates attached. Then it ended. Rick frowned. He didn't like jobs with kids involved, but the words high value kept echoing in his head. He had debts, he needed fuel, he needed credits. He climbed into his ship and started the engines. The sky turned darker as he lifted off. His ship flew low over broken towers and past silent fields where no crops grew. The meeting point was an old fuel station outside the colony. When Rek landed, he saw only one ship there, a black one, silent, too clean, too quiet. Draven stepped out of the shadows. His voice was cold like ice. You're late, he said. Rek didn't answer. He only looked at the two figures behind. Dravenone was tall and thin, silver skin that shimmered like moonlight, big eyes filled with sorrow. The other was a small child hiding behind her leg. The child had bright blue lines glowing under the skin. They're worth a fortune. Draven said, buy them cheap, sell them high, everyone. Wynn's Rek walked closer. The alien woman looked at him without fear. Her eyes didn't beg, but they asked a question, not with words, with silence. The child peeked at Rek and then slowly stepped forward. Rek knelt down without knowing why. The child reached out and touched Rek's hand, and something strange happened. Rek saw a flash, a bright light, a planet burning, a man screaming, the alien woman crying, and the child glowing like a star. Then it was gone. Rek pulled back, his hand shaking. What was that? He asked. Draven laughed. Don't worry, they do that sometimes, just genetic nonsense. Now make the deal or walk away. Rek looked at them again. The woman stood tall. The child hid again, but his eyes were watching Rek, not with fear, but with hope. Rek's mind raced. He remembered war. He remembered losing his own brother in a useless battle. He remembered children crying in broken cities. He remembered choosing silence because it paid more than doing the right thing, but not today, not this time. No deal, Rek said. Draven blinked. What? I said no, I'm not selling them, not ever, Rek said. Raven stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. You walk away now, you make enemies you can't handle. Rek turned around. He opened his ship. Then I'll deal with it. Come on, he said to the woman. She looked at him, then slowly stepped forward. The child followed without a sound. Raven shouted, you're a dead man, Rek. You hear me? They'll hunt you. Rek didn't answer. He closed the ship door. He walked to the cockpit. He looked back at them. They sat in silence, but the child smiled just a little. Rek started the engine. His hands moved fast. The ship lifted off. His screen blinked. A bounty alert appeared. Subject Rek Torin, wanted for theft and alien smuggling. Reward 50. 0 credits. Rek laughed once, then turned the ship toward the stars. Woman spoke for the first time, her voice soft like wind. Why did you help us? Rek didn't know the answer, not really. But he said something anyway, because someone has to. The ship flew into the dark with a human and alien widow, and her glowing child, no longer strangers. But not yet a family, not yet. But something had begun, something that could not be stopped. Asterisk. The stars outside the ship moved slowly like quiet rivers. Made of light, Rek sat in the pilot's seat with his hands on the controls and his eyes on the black sky ahead. Behind him, the alien woman watched in silence, holding her child close. The engines made a soft humming sound, but inside the ship, everything felt still, like time was waiting for something to begin. Rek checked the ship's radar. No signs of followers, no alerts, no danger, not yet. Child walked forward slowly. He looked at the stars through the window. His small fingers touched the glass. There was wonder in his eyes and something else, something deep, something old. The woman spoke without moving her eyes, her voice like a song too sad to finish. They will come for us. They always direct. Did not answer. He knew she was right. He had been a traitor for 10 years. He had seen bounty hunters cross 10 systems for half the price this job now offered. He had broken the rules. He had taken something the galaxy wanted to disappear. He thought about dropping them off on a moon somewhere safe. He thought about sending a fake signal to confuse the trackers. He thought about changing his ship ID. Then he stopped thinking, because the radar beeped. 2 red dots appeared behind them. Fast, close, too close. They found us, Rek said without surprise. The woman stood still, holding her child tighter. The ship shook slightly. The red dots grew brighter on the screen. Rek took control. He pulled the ship down through an asteroid belt. Huge rocks drifted slowly like sleeping beasts. He flew between them. Without fear, his eyes sharp, his hands steady, the enemy ships followed. Their weapons locked in a warning, flashed incoming fire. The ship jolted as a blast hit the side. Sparks flew from the walls. The lights flickered. The child screamed once, and then fell silent again. Rek pushed the engines harder. His ship twisted between the rocks. One of the enemy ships crashed into an asteroid and exploded into fire and metal. The other stayed behind him, faster than before. We're entering dead space now. No planets, no signals, no lost. Rek knew one place where they might hide, an old station he once used during the smuggling years. It was broken. Dark, almost forgotten. He turned the ship sharply. The engines screamed. The last enemy ship fired again. Another hit. The shields were fading. Hold on, Rick shouted as the ship dropped into a small canyon carved inside a massive floating rock. The enemy followed, but too fast. Rek pulled up just in time. The enemy ship hit the wall and burst into flame. Silence returned. Only the hum of damaged engines filled the air. The station was close now, half buried inside the largest asteroid in the belt. Its doors were open. Dead systems, no lights. Rek landed inside. He powered down the ship and turned off all signals. They sat in silence. He checked his weapon. One small blaster, half charged. He walked to the back and opened the small medkit. The woman had a cut on her arm. He cleaned it gently. She didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed on his. The child sat beside them. He looked weak. His blue lines glowed dimly now. He is tired, the woman said. His energy is connected to emotion. Fear drains him. Rek nodded. He placed a blanket over the child. He looked small and quiet, like a sleeping Imberek. Stood up. He walked through the station. Dust covered every panel. Broken screens flickered with old messages. A place forgotten by time. He checked the storage rooms. Some old food packs, water, nothing more. He returned to the ship. The woman was watching him. Do you regret helping us? She asked. Rek leaned against the wall. No, he said, but I don't know what happens next. The woman looked down. Then she whispered something in her own language. A soft word. He didn't understand it, but it felt like thank you. The child opened his eyes slowly. He looked at Rek. His lips moved, but no sound came. Rek leaned closer, and then he saw it. A vision, a city in flames. A group of people in black robes holding weapons, a tower falling, the woman crying, the child glowing like a star, and behind them, shadow larger than anything Rek had ever seen. Then the vision ended. Rek stepped back, his heart racing. What was that? He asked. The woman looked at him. His name is Luum, she said. He is not just a child. He is something more. Ike wanted to ask more, but the radar lit up again. New ships. 3 of them heading toward the station. He checked the energy core. Barely any power left. Shields gone. No weapons. We have to run, he said. We can't, she answered. The ship will not survive. Rek thought fast. He looked at Luum. The child sat up slowly, his eyes glowing brighter, his hands shaking. We hide now, Rek said. But next time we fight. He opened the secret cargo bay. They climbed in silent. Waiting outside, the enemy ships landed. Footsteps echoed through the broken station, and inside the darkness, a family not yet born held their breath together, waiting for what came next. The station walls were cold and cracked like the bones of an ancient beast. Dust floated in the stale air lights, blinked weakly as if unsure whether to die or hold on a little longer. Rex sat with his back against a steel panel his blaster held, tight across his lap and his eyes fixed on the shadow beyond the half-open door. Woman sat beside him silent, and still her child leaned against her shoulder, his small hands gripping the edge of her cloak. They had not spoken since the enemy ships landed. They had only listened to the boots that moved above, to the voices that whispered in a strange tongue, to the silence that always followed. Rek closed his eyes for a moment. Memories crept in of war, of fire, of orders shouted in panic, of children crying under fallen buildings. He had seen what monsters looked like. They did not always have claws. Sometimes they wore uniforms. Sometimes they offered money. The woman opened her eyes and looked at him. "You do not sleep," she said. Rek shook his head slowly. "Not when death is walking just outside." She placed her hand on the child's head. "He is stronger than he looks," she whispered. "But power does not make him safe. It makes him hunted." Reek studied the child. His name was Luam. There was something different in his gaze, not fear, not even curiosity, but depth, like he remembered things he never saw, like he carried a burden that did not belong to him. "Tell me," Rek said, "tell me what they are. Who wants you? Why the galaxy burns to catch." Youth woman did not speak at first. Then she reached into her cloak and pulled out a small metal cube. She held it between her fingers. When she touched the center, it opened like a flower made of light. Images floated in the air, a planet covered in crystal towers, a man in silver armor standing beside the woman, a child in her arms glowing softly, and then a flash, a cult of dark-robed figures, their hands raised toward the sky storms above them. "Fire below. My husband was a keeper," she said. "He protected the gate of stars. When he died, I ran, I hid. But Luam is more than our son. He is born of the Nova. He carries a light that once guided worlds." Rex stared at the images. He heard stories of the gate of stars, old tales told by drunk traders, stories of ancient machines that watched over galaxies. But they were myths, weren't they? The woman looked at Rek. "They fear what he may become," she said. "They believe he will awaken something they buried long ago, something that cannot be controlled." A loud sound echoed through the station. A door forced open. Heavy boots, voices shouting, "Closer." Rek closed the cube. The light vanished. He grabbed the woman's hand. "Time to move," he said. "Not yet," she replied. "You must see what he can do." She turned to Luam and whispered something in their language. The boy blinked once. His body trembled, and then the air around him changed. It felt heavier, warmer. Fulrek felt it like a storm inside his chest, like a memory that belonged to someone else. He saw things that could not be real, a giant machine orbiting a dead star, a throne made of glass, a child touching it, a voice that said, "He is the key." Then it stopped. Luam collapsed into his mother's arms. "See now," she said, "he is more than blood. He is legacy." Rek nodded. He pulled them to their feet. "We need to go now," he said. He led them through an old service tunnel. Rats scattered at their feet. Pipes leaked, steam rust covered everything like rot. They reached the far end of the station, a door sealed long ago. Rek forced it open with a code he remembered from years ago. Outside, silence, no ships, no soldiers, just rock, just cold. His ship was still there, dark and lifeless. He moved fast, powered the core with a bypass. Lights flickered on engines, coughed, then roared. "Get in," he said. They climbed aboard. Luam still unconscious. The woman wrapped him tight in a blanket. Rek lifted the ship and flew low. He avoided scanners, kept to the shadow of asteroids until they were far enough. He set course for a planet called Varnes, a trading moon, dangerous but free. As they flew, the woman sat beside him. "You do not ask for reward," she said. "You do not ask for power. I want neither." Rek answered, "I just want them to stop hunting you." She looked ahead, then said, "You cannot run from truth, even if you do not believe in it." Rek did not reply. He only tightened his grip on the controls behind them. The darkness still chased, but something had changed. Rek was no longer just running, he was choosing, and that choice would shape what came next. The sky above Varney's was a shade of deep green filled with thick clouds that moved like slow smoke across the heavens. The spaceport was alive with noise and color, and danger strangers passed without speaking their faces. Hidden under hoods and helmets, their stories locked behind silence. Every corner held a secret, and every shadow held a watcher. Wreck walked through the market with his hood low and his steps quiet. Behind him the woman moved like a ghost, her silver skin covered by a long dark robe. The child walked between them, his small fingers wrapped around her hand, his eyes scanning everything with quiet wonder and hidden fear. They needed supplies, fuel, food, a new ID for the ship, and time to breathe. Time to plan. Rick found an old contact, a trader with metal arms and one blinking eye. He spoke in whispers and counted his credits twice for every deal. He owed Rek a favor from years ago, when both of them were younger and more foolish. Rek gave him a code, a request for a new identity, a place off-grid. The trader agreed, but his eyes lingered on the child too long. His fingers twitched like they were reaching for something invisible. Rick pulled back. No questions, no names, no deals beyond this. The trader nodded slowly, but Rek felt it. Something was wrong back at the ship. Rek checked the sensors. He felt the quiet before the storm. Too quiet. No alerts, but his instincts screamed. He turned to the woman. They know they will come. She did not ask how. He knew. She simply held her child close and whispered something in their old language. The child looked at Rek. His eyes glowed just a little. First shot hit the ground near the landing bay. Then another and another. The port exploded into noise and panic. People screamed and ran. Bounty hunters in black armor pushed through the crowd. Their rifles raised, their visors cold and empty. Rick fired once. Then again. He pulled the woman and child into cover behind an old cargo stack. His mind raced. No time to run. No time to plan. He turned to the woman. We fight now or we die, she nodded. But her voice was calm. We do not die today. The child stepped forward, his hands trembling. Rek tried to stop him, but the woman held him back. Let him try, she said. Air around the child shimmered, heat waves without heat, light without flame. Then the sound changed. Bounty hunters stopped. They staggered, their weapons fell. Their helmets cracked from within. They screamed, then silence. The market stood still then. Chaos again. Everyone ran, but Rek stood frozen. What was that, he asked. The woman spoke slowly. He does not know what he is yet, but he is learning. More ships came. Too many, too fast. Rek knew the market was no longer safe. They ran to the back alleys, dark paths behind storage towers and rusted generators. One hunter found them. Rek turned and fought a close battle, hand to hand. Old instincts returned, pain and blood. But Rek won. They reached the ship. Rek powered it up. Engines roared, shields weak, but they had to try. The ship lifted. Shots fired from the ground. One hit the left side. Sparks flew. The child screamed. Rek pushed forward. Large ship blocked their path. Too strong, too fast. Rek looked at the woman. She looked at the child. The child stood. He raised his hands. The sky split for a second. Just 1 second. The enemy ship lost power. Its lights died. It fell from the sky like a broken bird. Rek flew up into the clouds, into safety. For now they did not speak for a long time. The stars returned. The sky black and endless. Rek sat in silence. The controls steady in his hands. He had fought before, but not like this. This was not war. This was survival. This was something else. The woman finally spoke. You stayed, you fought, you risked everything. Did not look at her. I had no choice. Yes, you did, she said. And you chose us. The child sat between them, his eyes closed, his hands calm. But his power still moved like a quiet storm inside the ship, where now the woman Rek thought for a moment, then said, we find the truth. We find why they fear him. We find what he is. She nodded. And if they come again, then we fight again. The ship moved through the stars. 3 lives inside, bound by danger, bound by choice. No longer just strangers on the run, but something stronger, something unbroken, something becoming whole. And behind them, the fire they escaped still burned. But ahead the unknown waited, and they would meet it together. The stars above drifted like forgotten memories, shining across endless black. The ship moved in silence as if even the engines were holding their breath. Inside, Rex sat alone in the pilot seat, his hands still, his eyes on nothing, his thoughts louder than the hum of power around him. He had flown through wars and smugglers' routes. He had escaped prisons and betrayed kings, but nothing had ever made his heart feel heavy like this child, like this woman, like this choice. Child slept in the back, his chest rising slow, his glowing lines faint and flickering like a candle caught in wind. The woman watched him not as a guardian, but as someone who knew the sky could fall at any moment and take everything she loved with it. Rick turned toward her and asked the question he had been holding like fire in his mouth. What is he really? She looked at him, then at the stars, then at the child, and her voice came like snow falling in a graveyard. He is not chosen, he is not cursed, he is born at the moment between light and end. He is what the old ones called a starborn. Wreck waited for more, but she said nothing. He rose from his seat and walked to the back of the ship, the room where the child slept, now warm and glowing with a soft hum that came from the walls themselves. Lewin stirred but did not wake. Rex sat beside him, not speaking, just watching. The woman entered the room holding the metal cube again. She placed it on the table and pressed the center. Light rose again, showing not just images, but living memory. A planet with skies of silver and oceans that floated above ground. A temple made of singing stones. A group of beings kneeling around a star. And in the center, a child born without pain, eyes open, lines glowing. This is not legend, she said. This is the first of him, and now he is the last. Rick leaned forward. Why do they want him? Because power scares those who worship control, she said. The ones who hunt us belong to the circle of silence. They believe in order through fear. They kill what they cannot tame. The cube flickered again, this time showing the map, a star system marked in red, coordinates blinking. Rek pointed. What is that? The place where it began, she said, and maybe where it must end. Rick stood, set course, no more hiding. Walked back to the cockpit and entered the code. The ship turned slowly toward a system not found on any current chart, old, hidden, forbiddens. They approached. Something strange happened. The ship began to shake, not violently, not from outside, from something inside the space itself, like the air remembered pain. Lewin woke, his eyes wide. He said nothing, but his hand reached toward the window outside. A shape appeared, a ring of stone floating unmoving. Ancient Trek slowed the ship. The ring glowed faintly as they drew close. The light pulsed in rhythm with Lewin's heart. They passed through. Suddenly, the ship was above a world lost to time. Ruins of towers, skies that shimmered with gold, silence so deep it felt like a voice. They landed near what remained of a temple, stone broken, symbols carved in languages not spoken in 1,000 years. The woman led them. She walked as if the ground itself knew her steps. Lewin followed without fear. Rek kept his blaster ready, but part of him knew guns meant nothing here. Inside the temple, they found a hall filled with light, not from the sun, but from something beneath the floor. A crystal floated in the center. Lewin stepped forward. The light touched his skin and grew brighter. He is the key, the woman whispered. The temple is his memory, and the truth waits. Insideluum touched the crystal. The room exploded with vision, not pain, not fire, but knowledge. Rick saw galaxies forming. He saw races rise and fall. He saw war without reason, peace without voice, and he saw the circle of silence poisoning the stars. Then he saw Lewin, not as a child but as a bridge, a light that could awaken the machines built to protect life, machines that had gone to sleep long ago. When the vision ended, Rek could barely breathe. He looked at the boy. Do you understand? He asked. Lewin nodded. Once the temple lights faded, outside storms began to form. They are coming, the woman said. Rek turned toward the ship, then toward the stars. Let them come, he said. We have the truth now, and the truth is not quiet anymore. The wind above the ancient temple roared like an angry beast born from storms and old sorrow. The sky no longer shimmered with gold, but cracked with purple light as clouds, thick as stone, circled above the ruins. Rek stood at the edge of the landing platform, his hand on the blaster and his eyes fixed on the dark shapes moving in the sky. The woman stood behind him, silent and calm, her silver cloak dancing in the wind like smoke caught between worlds. The child stood beside her, unmoving, his glowing lines now pulsing with steady light that echoed through the stone. Beneath their feet, they had returned to the ship hours ago to prepare. Rek checked every system twice. The weapons still weak, the shields still broken, but the truth had changed something inside him. He no longer felt like a man running from shadows. He now felt like the last wall between the future and the fire waiting to consume it. "They are closed," the woman said. Rek nodded without turning. "I know." The sky broke open with sound. Enemy ships descended like claws from the void, black and silent except for the hum of death that followed them. 3, then 6, then more. They landed in formation like soldiers preparing to erase the past. Doors opened. Figures stepped out in armor marked by the circle of silence. Their leader stood taller than the rest, his helmet shaped like a wolf, his voice sharp and cold. "Like broken glass, return the boy and you live," he said. "Refuse and be forgotten." Rek stepped forward. Slowly, his voice steady but low. "We have seen the truth. We know what you hide, and we are not afraid." "Then you are already dead," the leader answered. Blasters were raised. The air charged with tension. The moment before the storm, Luum stepped forward. He raised his hand and the light from his body brightened, not like fire, not like flame, but like memory waking from a long sleep. Enemy soldiers paused. Some fell back, their weapons shaking. The leader did not move. He fired. The shot raced toward Luum. Rek moved without thought. He stood in front of the boy. The blast hit his shoulder. He dropped to one knee. His blaster fell, but his eyes stayed open. Pain flashed like lightning through his chest, but he stayed upright. He would not fall. The woman cried out, her voice filled with power and grief. She raised her hands. Wind screamed around her. Dust rose like waves. Luum placed his hand on Rek's wound. The light spread, warm, pure. The pain faded. Rek stood again, stronger. He picked up his weapon. The enemy charged. Rek fought with the fury of a man who had lost everything and chosen to protect what remained. He moved through the chaos like fire through dry grass. The woman stood beside him, her voice controlling the wind, her eyes glowing with ancient light. Luum walked between them, untouched by fear, untouched by fire. The enemy fell one by one, not from bullets, but from truth, their minds filled with visions, their hearts filled with doubt. The power of the boy, not to destroy, but to awaken the leader, reached for Luum. One final attempt to claim the power he could never understand. He touched the boy's shoulder, and the world changed. Time stopped. Light, folded voices from long ago filled the sky. The machines that once protected life awakened across the stars. Old codes spoken again, old names remembered. The leader screamed and fell back. His helmet cracked, his mind broken. Rek moved forward, his gun pointed at the last enemy, but Luum raised his hand and stopped him. "No more." The boy said. The leader crawled back to his ship, defeated by something greater than violence. Rek lowered his weapon. He looked at the boy, then at the woman, then at the stars above, now clearing slowly. "It is done," she said. "No," Rek answered. "It has just begun." They walked back to the ship, Rek limping slightly, the woman quiet. The boys smiling for the first time. They flew into the sky, the ruins below fading into distance, the past behind them, the unknown ahead. But now they were more than fugitives, more than survivors. They were the keepers of light, the guardians of truth, and they had stood their ground together. The stars moved slowly across the void, as if the universe itself had stopped to watch the path of one small ship drifting toward the heart of forgotten space. Inside that ship, Rek sat at the controls, his fingers resting on buttons he no longer needed to press. His eyes locked on the growing light ahead. The boy stood beside him, quiet but steady, his glow soft but endless like a sunrise that had no end. The woman watched them both, her face calm, her breath slow, her heart full of stories that could never be written. They had passed battles and ruins and worlds too broken to name. They had left behind smoke and fire and pain, and chosen instead to chase something brighter. Hope ahead stood the station of the Council of Free Worlds. Ring of light and metal circling a peaceful moon, untouched by war, untouched by the circle. It was the only place left that listened before it judged, the only place left where truth still had a voice. As woo, the only place left that listened before it judged leftward. This only place left where truth still had a voice. As the ship approached, defense systems scanned them but did not fire. The child's presence had already been felt. The old machines remembered him. The old codes woke in silence. They landed without sound. Rex stepped out first, his jacket torn, his steps slow but firm. The woman followed her head high, her silver cloak flowing like wind, made solid. Luum walked between them, his small hands open, his eyes wide. His light, warm but unafraid guards watched them as they walked through the long silver halls. Whispers followed them. The humans have brought the starburn. The child of the gate walks again. The lost truth returns inside the council chamber. 12 beings of many races sat in tall chairs, their faces hidden behind tradition and time. One of them stood and spoke. Why have you come? With this child, why now? Why risk the fire that follows him? Rex stepped forward. Because fire follows truth when truth is buried. Because we have seen the lies. Because we have stood at the edge and chose not to fall. The council murmured. They asked for proof. They asked for silence. They asked for surrender. The woman stepped forward. She opened the small metal cube. Light filled the chamber. They saw the old visions. They saw the machines waking. They saw the truth of the circle, the wars they started, the peace they poisoned. They saw Luum standing in the center of all things, not to rule, but to remind. The chamber fell silent. Luum stepped forward and placed his hand on the center stone of the hall. A pulse spread through the station, soft at first, then louder, a wave of memory, and across the galaxy, the old protectors opened their eyes. Beacons that had not lit in 1,000 years flickered back to life. Machines built to guard life returned to watch the stars again. The council rose as one. They knelt before the child. He is not a weapon. They said he is a beginning. Outside the station, peace returned. Ships stopped running. War paused. Truth moved like wind through every corner of space. Inside the quiet ship, Wreck sat again at the pilot's seat. Not as a smuggler, not as a fighter, but as something new. The woman sat across from him, her hands folded, her eyes resting. Luum slept between them, curled in a blanket, his glow calm like the soft hum of a song. Remembered. Rek looked at them and smiled, a real smile, the first in years. He had lost much, his name, his peace, his place. But in their eyes he had found something more. Family. You could sell a ship. You could fix a blaster. You could change a name. But you could not buy this. You could not fake it. It was real. The stars outside moved again. A signal blinked on the console, a message from the council. An offer, a mission. Help us teach again. Help us rebuild what was broken. Rek looked at the woman. She nodded. He looked at the child. Luum opened his eyes and smiled. Rek pressed the button. The ship turned gently toward a new system. Not for escape, not for survival, but for something better, a future. They did not know what waited there, but they would face it as one. Not human, not alien, not hunted, not heroes, just a family. And in the heart of the stars where war once lived, now lived something else, a promise, and it would shine forever.